Calling it now, the future of comics. A friendly passerby compliments the roughly 24-year-old cartoonist Zoe Thorogood as the doors to a sizable convention are about to open. Confiding in her friend Izzy, Thorogood responds to the well-meaning comment as any true, tortured artist would. I feel like everyone who says that is setting me up for a massive fall. This exchange is recounted in Zoe Thorogood's two-time 2023 Eisner-nominated self-dubbed autobiographic novel, It's Lonely at the Center of the Earth, published by Image Comics. As I read this anecdotal interaction, two thoughts occurred to me simultaneously. The first was, rather cynically with a pinch of jealousy, must be nice, but I've never heard of you. And the second was just as selfish. When did the future of comics appear so suddenly, and where was I when it happened? Because Zoe Thorogood and I are practically the same age, and I've been told the same thing by others in the indie comic space. So hell if I was going to miss out. Before we continue, I'd like to ask all of you to please subscribe to this channel if you haven't, and please give the video a like if you enjoy it. I know I haven't been uploading any content recently, and I want to apologize for that. I've been busy making my own comics rather than working on talking about comics, and it's an unfortunate trade-off that I've had to balance my time with. But my interactions with you all and seeing that you enjoy my videos really helps to keep me motivated. So thank you for everyone who's stood by me through this famine season. I have one more big ask of you guys, and that is if you could please sign up to be notified when my new comic launches on Kickstarter this fall. The Fabled Offering is a sweeping sci-fi fantasy one-shot about a grand princess on a quest to save herself and her kingdom from her past traumas. You are going to want to be a part of this campaign. It is some of my best work and also artist Marco Roblin's best work, and every single page in this book is very special, very powerful, and you are going to want to be a part of it. So please sign up today. Thank you guys. I couldn't really tell you why I purchased It's Lonely at the Center of the Earth. It was the first time I heard of Zoe Thorogood, and although I had seen Rain before on the stands, I didn't put two and two together until I conducted more research. I started seeing some critical buzz for the book along with a simple but eye-catching cover floating around social media, and I made a mental note to look through the book if I ever saw it in stores. Alas, no shops in my area carried it, and so, with a humble $12.99 price tag for a nearly 200-page book, I special ordered it on a whim. Suffice it to say, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. What would have originally been one sitting turned into two. And page after page, my feelings on Thorogood's work would go back and forth between positive and negative more times than I could count. At points, I would think to myself that the meta-narrative of It's Lonely at the Center of the Earth was a brave, experimental exercise of genius. And at other times I would think, is this just narcissism on a grander scale, disguised as a tragic life story about mental health that technically isn't even a life story? Manipulating my emotions into feeling sorry for a young cartoonist who is way more successful and talented than I? But it wasn't until the final pages of reflections Zoe offers that I began to understand, that I began to touch ground. It's Lonely at the Center of the Earth is both and neither of these things. Complicated and complex, just like a human being. It's a paradox of a story if you could call it a story at all. Zoe admits this within the graphic novel itself, constantly questioning the structure and reason for the book's existence while creating it in quote-unquote real time. The back cover image goes as far as featuring the painted words, "This book was not supposed to exist," in big black bold letters, drawn by a drawing of Zoe herself. Rather, It's Lonely at the Center of the Earth is a conversation with the reader. A conversation about the insecurities, doubts, setbacks, anxieties, and paralyzing depression living life and just being ourselves can inflict upon us haphazardly and without warning. More so, It's specifically a tangible time capsule representing the insanity Zoe and I's generation face as the world continues to spin the lie of ever-present connection, telling us how connected we are, when in fact that potential for universal connection only makes us feel more isolated and alone. It's the artists, the writers, really any serious creative person's cross to bear, and I can't think of one piece of entertainment in any medium that has punched me in the gut with that realization as convincingly as this graphic novel. Yet, how could a creator that is so self-aware of themselves that they decide to restart their own book midway through, a graphic novel that further continued to play tug-of-war with my mind and heart, make me come to that conclusion? See, Zoe Thorogood doesn't make sense. And you know what? I think she would be the first to agree with me. I mean, come on. How can someone in their early 20s who's both a writer and artist be this good, this young, be so on point? In her own book, Zoe describes herself as someone who is always looking for things that don't quite make sense. It only felt right if it was only slightly wrong, she says. Like jigsaw pieces that didn't quite fit together, but still made a pretty picture. Did Zoe know when she wrote those words that she was describing the entirety, the whole of It's Lonely at the Center of the Earth? I couldn't say. Nevertheless, the fact that that's there, that we're talking about it here and now, is very fascinating. The more I explore this book, the more I begin to compare its significance to the achievements of Will Eisner, Scott McCloud, and dare I say even James O'Barr. Not in content per se, not at all, but in craftsmanship, in harnessing the visual medium that solidifies comics as a uniquely separate language of its own. A language which only an audience who appreciates comics as such can read and hear. This is an evident fact, as there are a handful of examples I could point to from the book, and my gosh, we haven't even started talking about the above and beyond, out of the box, mixed media creative uses of art Zoe conjures. Thorogood uses every tool in the comic artist toolbox for her memoir, and she may have invented a few more while at it. The beginning of the book is dedicated to someone somewhere, and while I don't believe I'm that someone somewhere, I know there are other Zoe Thorogoods out there, other people who have experienced what she has to such a degree that this book itself is language for them, is an articulation of that void that Zoe talks about. And I feel, in that sense, whatever help it would have given them is so worth its existence of being on the shelf, of someone finding that and finding comfort in it. Is Zoe Thorogood the future of comics? That remains to be seen, but I'd be lying if I said it wasn't in the cards. And just as it's the right thing to embrace a struggling young girl in a moment of need and tell her everything is going to be all right, we should show the same attitude towards this abstract yet concrete idea we call the future.